Hey everyone, and welcome. So you're getting ready to tackle the public agency budgeting paper? Well, you've come to the right place. We are going to break this whole thing down step by step and turn what feels like a giant mountain into a totally doable climb. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so right off the bat, the course material is not messing around. It tells you straight up, this paper is a big deal. And seeing a warning like that can feel a little intense, but really, it's just a friendly heads up to get your ducks in a row early.
And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're not just going to stare at the requirements. We are going to build a clear, logical roadmap that will guide you through this whole project, from the very first step to the final submission. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the real mission of this project, the why. Then we'll cover the groundwork you need to lay. After that, we'll dive deep into the three main parts of your paper, the process, the document, and your recommendations. And we'll wrap it all up with a final submission checklist. Nice and straightforward.
All right, first things first, the mission. Look, I know it's tempting to just dive headfirst into the research, but trust me, taking a minute to really get a handle on why you're doing this paper, that's probably the most important first step you can take. So let's get crystal clear on what this project is really all about.
Here's the key thing to remember. This isn't just some abstract essay. Nope. This is a hands-on, practical dive into the real world of public money. For a little while, you get to be an analyst, figuring out how an actual organization, like your local city government or a nonprofit, makes decisions about spending taxpayer or donor dollars.
Okay, now that we've got that core mission locked in, let's move on to laying the groundwork. This is where we get tactical. We're talking about the must-know dates and the concrete first steps you need to take, like right now, to build a super strong foundation for your whole project.
You're going to want to pull out your calendar for this. The instructions couldn't be clearer. Start in week 1. You've got that initial summary and plan due near the end of January, with the final paper hitting in late February. Trust me, procrastination is not going to be your friend on this one.
So what are your first 3 moves? It's simple. First, pick an organization. Could be a city, a county, maybe even a nonprofit you care about. Second, get your hands on their key documents: the budget manual, the operating budget, and the annual financial report. This stuff is your evidence. And once you have those, you can start digging in and setting up interviews.
Now we get to the real meat of the paper. Part 1 is all about the process. This is where you put on your investigator hat. You're looking into the how, the who, and the when of how a budget actually gets made.
What's so cool here is that you're not just creating a timeline. You're looking at the whole ecosystem of decision-making. I mean, everything from how they guess their income for next year, to who has the real power, how they handle disagreements, and even what software they're using to do it all.
And this question right here, this gets to the juicy part. Because budgets aren't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. They are deeply political documents. There were different priorities and departments clash. Your job is to find those friction points. Is it the police department fighting for more funding against the library? The mayor's office versus the city council? That's where the real story is.
Okay, let's switch gears to part 2. So once you've analyzed how the budget was made, you're going to turn your attention to the final product, the budget document itself.
Here, you're basically putting on your critic hat. Is this a simple line item budget that just lists what they're buying? Or is it a more advanced program budget focused on goals? You'll also dig into whether they're actually using performance data to make decisions or if it's just for show. And you'll evaluate something really subtle but important. Do the people involved feel like the process was fair?
And this question is a really big one. It gets to the heart of accountability. Is this organization just funding the same old things because that's what they've always done? Or are they actually using data to figure out what works and what doesn't and then putting their money there? It's a huge deal in public service.
And that brings us to the grand finale of your paper. This is where you get to step out of the analyst role and into the consultant role. It's time for your expert recommendations.
And the assignment is super specific about this. You need to come up with 10, yep, count them, 10 concrete things that this organization could or should do to improve. We're not talking about vague ideas here. We're talking about a clear, actionable list.
So how do you make those 10 recommendations really strong? Well, they absolutely have to be tied to your research and the concepts from class. They have to be realistic. No, give everyone a unicorn ideas. And you have to think about the trade-offs. If you suggest a major IT upgrade, you need to acknowledge the costs and argue why the benefits are worth it.
All right, we are in the home stretch now. You've done all the hard work, the research, the interviews, the analysis.
Now let's just make sure you don't lose any easy points on the little things.
Think of this slide as your new best friend. Seriously. 6 to 10 pages, submitted as a Word doc, double-spaced, 12-point Times New Roman font, and full APA citations. Just follow these rules to the letter. It's an easy way to show that you're paying attention to the details.
And finally, what really separates a good paper from a great one? It's not just about checking all the boxes. It's about building a logical argument, using the right vocabulary with confidence, writing clearly, and, most importantly, offering a sharp, critical analysis that weaves in everything you've been learning in the course.
So, as you get started on this journey, I want to leave you with one final thought. This project is so much more than just an assignment for a grade. It's a real chance to peek behind the curtain of local power and money. So the real question is, how will what you uncover change the way you see your own community and your place in it?